You know, and even in that event, I saw something very wonderful about it, because our Christian friends sent us good wishes and prayers, and our Jewish friends sent good wishes and prayers, and our Muslim friends sent us good wishes and prayers. And lo and behold, we received a lot of good wishes from some agnostics, some atheists, and we were delighted to get those as well. It confirms my conviction that freedom brings people together. You know, early on in the campaign, I thought I might have really messed up because, you know, I answered a question rather truthfully about me becoming president. And I have truly been a reluctant candidate, and was not all that anxious to do it, not thinking that there would be a large number of people who cared. I was skeptical. Some said that you were apathetic, and we helped remove that. But I lost my skepticism. I hope you lost your apathy. But when they asked me about what I wanted to do as president, I said, you know, I really look at it differently. I want to be president because of the things I don't want to do. I explained that I did not want to run people's lives, I did not want to run the economy, and I did not want to run the world. I didn't have the authority to do it, and I didn't have the Constitution behind me to do it. But they said, but that sounds like a weak president. I said, well, I don't think so. I think resisting the temptation of power requires some strength, and we don't need more government power. You know, I hope you agree that this has been a fantastic rally today. What do you think? Hey. And guess what? Guess what? Not one single taxpayer cent was spent on this rally. I understand there's another meeting in a nearby town going on. Let us be respectful. But I also understand that we do not have to respect the conditions that allowed both other conventions to get $16.8 million apiece to run their party. And here we are. This was not inexpensive, and all of you contributed to it, and some a lot more than others, a lot of volunteers and a lot of money, and we paid every cent, and there is going to be no debt. You know, there should be an urgency about what we do. It would be nice to be relaxed and think that we're back in the 1950s when I first barely started thinking about politics, but it's not the 1950s anymore. It's a new century, and there's a lot more problems. And we have terrible threats around the world. We have a foreign policy that's gone amok. We have a monetary system that's in a mess, and we know all our problems. But there's an urgency in what we do, because we are carrying the banner, and we must act, because we as a group now have a greater moral responsibility to act than those who live in ignorance. Once you become knowledgeable, you have an obligation to do something about it.
You specifically, this is coming from Bilderberg, from Trilateral Commission, same thing. Why are they still worried about Ron Paul?
Because they're concerned about Ron Paul's turning out thousands and thousands of young voters who are getting what they call their political education. Well, the political education Dr. Paul is giving these throngs of young people is exactly the opposite of what Bilderberg and Trilateral want.
So they're worried about the movement and what it's built rather than the candidacy.
Yes, they're sure that Ron Paul himself says that he recognizes no chance to be elected. Well, he thinks he's got about 50 delegates with all the campaign election cheating and so forth, still about 50 delegates, and he's hoping to be able to deliver a primetime speech at the convention on that basis. And it used to be if you got even one delegate, you could be placed in nomination in a adoring fashion. But they're concerned that these thousands of young people who follow Ron Paul are being educated on the Constitution, which they despise, the First and Tenth Amendments, which they despise, and the fact that Ron Paul would bring the United States back to a non-interventionist policy abroad. He'd bring the troops home immediately, not only from Iraq and Afghanistan, but from 130 peacekeeping missions around the world. He'd bring them home, and they would protect our border, not other people's borders. And our borders are so badly unprotected as it is.
Okay, so bottom line, they're worried about the anti-globalist movement exploding in size with Ron Paul as a focal point.
Yes, and with all these young people embracing, and traditionally young people were always considered left-wingers in the 1960s. They all voted for McGovern, and they who was correctly opposed to the war, but also favored a whole lot of socialism. While
that's right. So now they're not buying into fake conservatives, neocons. They're not buying into a foundation, establishment, gatekeeper liberals. They're actually waking up to the New World Order. And your sources were saying that that was one of the main topics.
It was not actually on the agenda, but a lot of people expressed concern about Ron Paul.
Did they talk about ways to counter it?
No, they just raised the issue. We've got to do something about it. They want Republicans to pressure Paul to drop out now and stop his education rallies. And that assignment was given to Thomas Foley, former U.S. Speaker of the House, but he was a Democrat. But of course, all that.
How is Foley going to go after Paul? Do we know from the enemy operation?
He will call up old cronies in Congress, Republicans and Democrats, who will pressure Paul to announce he's dropped his campaign and is through making speeches, this exercise in futility.
So the Trilateral Commission is putting a political fatwa out on Paul. You will see demonization campaigns. All of this suddenly heat up.
Yes, but Paul is a strong man. He will resist that.